Good morning. Indi from
Hello,
here. Hello. And I'm speaking with Tiah Goldstein. Tell us who you are, Tiah.
I'm Tia. I hang out and do things. I always find that question a little bit challenging. I have a company called Interwoven that works on building more impact entrepreneurs and tech companies, aligning tech companies more towards the Sustainable Development Goals.
Right. So tell us about the Sustainable Development Goals. What are they and how did you get involved with them?
Oh, there's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The way that I explain the Sustainable Development Goals is I'm a little bit of a sci-fi geek. So if you know Star Trek or anything that has to do with that type of era, then I like to think about like the Space Federation, where everybody is equal and that there's no war and everybody is happy. So the United Nations have kind of created something that is goals towards getting us to that place. So there are 17 goals that are a vision towards how we can all live happier, healthier, equitable, and peaceful society. And I think the goals are really interesting because they're all interwoven, even though they're all separate. So there are goals that range from like life under land, water, agriculture, structure, people, countries. There's a whole bunch of them. And they're basically a really good guidepost and idealistic vision to where we want to aspire to.
Right. And you recently went to an event where the sustainable goals were on the big stage. I saw you moving around carrying all the big boxes. You might have seen all of the SDGs often represented in these big cubes of colour. Can you tell us about that event and what you got to see?
Yeah, EarthTech was, I was very honored to be a part of EarthTech. EarthTech was actually a longer process. So these two guys, Brian and Ant from the Sunshine Coast, basically succeeded at doing what I tried to do and was not successful. And they have managed to create this international challenge where they invited youth, they defined it as youth, to come up and to submit their solutions to SDGs that had to do with technology, but really it was something that had to do with interesting solutions within international context around solving wicked problems. So the summit that I was at, which was 3 days on Makepeace Island in Noosa, was the 10 successful applicants. So there were 10 successful winners. There was something like, I think that at the end they had 750 applicants from around the world.
Wow.
People who participated in this. And the 10 teams that won, they were from Bangladesh, from India, from Nigeria, from Spain, all over the globe. And some of the solutions that they had, it was so inspiring. It was such a really, really neat and interesting and inspiring event for sure. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And I guess for me, when I went over to that World Economic Forum and to DLD, I saw these goals coming up again and again. And that was really inspiring to me, is that it gave us this global action plan. And everyone, like you just said, people from all over the world can dial in and work out how they can impact these goals. I know that there's measures for each goal and then there's measures within each one of those. How have you seen startup, small, medium business start to impact these goals, or how can they kind of apply that lens of thinking about the SDGs to what they do?
I mean, I think that right now we're living in a really interesting time. I mean, we're speaking virtually because of the coronavirus, right? Which is an unprecedented event that is happening, is like the giant equalizer. So we are all in this together. It equalizes race, it equalizes sex, it equalizes income, like everything. It's just everybody has the ability to be able to be impacted by this. And I think that with this, what's growing is actually this continuous desire for people to make an impact and to do something in their lives that is going to make the world a bigger place. And I think that a lot of times the concept of it is a really big one that people have a difficulty being able to find a way in. And so my whole desire, or what I'm working on for the past year, is really this concept of pathways to impact, which is, you know that you want to make something, you know that you want to make a difference. What is some of the ways that you can kind of come in? How can you have either a side conversation or a direct conversation or work towards something? And what the SDGs do is it really provides you with some kind of goalpost of you being able to walk towards it. So different companies have they're really easy wins that you can do as a company to be able to kind of enter into it. And it's interesting because right now I'm teaching at 2 unis. So I'm teaching at UQ, a course that I developed on social entrepreneurship. And at Griffith, I'm teaching a leadership for sustainable enterprise for sustainability and for a master's program. And in there, we talk about the whole concept of like sustainability 0.0, 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And that's basically a continuum of how companies evolve in terms of their ability to interact with the concept of sustainability or SDGs. And SDGs are basically SDGs are an action or a pathway towards sustainability and towards a more equitable world. So it's interesting to kind of see the different places that you can enter, both as an existing company. So there are easy wins that you can do that have to do with understanding it from a cost saving perspective. So whether that has to do with
one of those easy wins, like how, if you're sort of starting out and you don't have necessarily a pathway of what you're going to follow, but you'd like to start considering this, what would be your advice, or how could people get started?
The first thing that I would do is I would actually take a look at what the SDGs are and find alignment with the companies, with your company, and with the people that are working within your company, and figure out what are some of the passions that we have as a company that we feel align with our vision, but also align with what the people that we work with care about. That's the first thing that I would do, is really take apart both your value chain and your supply chain, and kind of say like, okay, what are the actions that we do? What are some of the SDGs that we can potentially see how we can make an impact? So if you take, for example, the SDG that has to do with renewable energy. So that's like a really, really, you can think about it in terms of like, oh my God, I'm such a small company, and what is it that I can do that would have to do with anything that has to do with renewable energy? Well, as long as you are orienting in the direction of an SDG, every small action that you take is going to be a benefit. So whether it has to do with looking at how do you do renewals, or whether it has to do, you guys are a tech company and you have servers. Well, what kind of energy are the servers running on? So you can take a look at different ways to be able to either switch to servers that run on a different type of power, or you can encourage your supply chain of people who are doing the servers to move towards more renewable energies. Like, those are really small actions that you can do. So you can think about it in terms of like, internally, do an internal audit in terms of the different aspects that you're doing as a company, and externally, how can we work with our different stakeholders and shareholders and expand our notion of what we are here for and what capital actually means in order for us to find ways to kind of enter into an SDG. So you can either do it by looking at the SDGs and saying, this is what I feel really passionate about, how can we do something about that? Or you can look at, what are we passionate about? How does that match with the SDGs, and find small ways into it? And you have to understand that it's a continuum. There's no way that you are going to be able to get to a point where you're like, yes, we've done it, it's all good. No, it's like a continuous learning curve. And that is like goal 17 is partnerships for the goals. And that involves you being able to connect and interact and be able to aspire and think about really interesting ways to create partnerships that requires you to shift your thinking around what business is and how business is supposed to interact and what competition actually is.
Wow. Well, that's a great summary. Thank you so much, Tiah. I can tell this is a massive passion area for you, and I really appreciate
I've just been doing it a lot right now.
That's it. But I guess, is there any advice or any ideas you want to share? I mean, we are at a really difficult time, and everything is being kind of rethought, re-engineered. There's opportunities for new business models and new ways of doing things. Is there anything you want to share in relation to the SDGs around what might be next, what your vision might be?
I mean, I think that there's a couple of things. First of all, I think that I feel that this situation a lot of times as to why we don't do things or why we don't move forward really has to do with fear, right? And I feel like right now at this point in time, all that fear is being burned away. Like this is a perfect time to really choose how you want to interact with what is happening, because it all begins with you as an individual. So you have a choice to either play the victim, and I am not by any means negating or or minimizing the impact that this has had, the economic impact that this has had on people. Like, it's massive on, on my friends, on small businesses that are around. But your mindset is something that is incredibly important. So being able to really understand, okay, well, how can I see this as a potential opportunity? And what are some potential opportunities that can come as a result of this? And part of being like a business is for you to be able to learn how to be agile, how to pivot, how to think differently about who you actually serve. So the first thing that I would do is I would just take a look at what the SDGs are and really familiar yourself with them. And then find out, like, do some research as to other companies that are doing amazing things. Thankfully, we are not at the beginning of this journey, but in the mid of the journey with SDGs. And there's so many different amazing experiences and amazing practices that other companies have done that you can emulate. And whether you're someone who's just starting off, or whether you're someone who's an existing company, or whether you're someone who's a very massive company, there's always something that you can do to find your pathway into something. So right. Just start, just learn and start.
And I know when I first started this journey, you gave me a list of like ideas and resources of things I should check out. Is there one or two that you would recommend other people check out off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, the first one I would check out just has to do with like, understand what the SDGs are. That would be the first one. Like that's one. I think that one of the people that I really like is Paul Hawken, and he is one of the founders of this concept called natural capital, and he's a very deep thinker around how do we as a society solve climate change and how do we think differently. So Paul Hawken would be one that I would really recommend. Yep. And of course there's the concept of like circular economy, which is very popular right now, which really is the concept of like a closed loop system. So how do you think about your waste, whatever that waste is, as a company, as food or as a resource for something else? And again, so that's thinking about, instead of thinking about a linear, how do you start thinking in systems? And that's definitely, if there's three things that I would recommend: one, familiar yourself with the Sustainable Development Goals; two, read Paul Hawken because he's super cool; and three is learn more about systems thinking and learn more about how can you start looking at the world from a systems thinking perspective, which will enable you to actually look at different opportunities in a different way.
Fantastic.
I think that's it.
That's a great list. I think that's a good way to get started. Thank you so much, Tiah. Very excited.
No worries. Thanks, Indi.
Engineering a better world all the time with everything you do and the passion you bring to it. So love having
Thank you.
My gang. All right. Well, we'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.